It's already doing it.
Okay, well now I'm pissed off. So
Okay.
I hope you're happy.
Take a deep breath. Zen.
Who's then?
Breathe in for 4. Hold.
Oh, is this an Andrew Huberman bullshit thing?
No, I don't know.
Okay. Now let's print this motherfucker. Oh, hello. Look how pretty you look.
Yeah.
You look good today. You look good.
Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt, but am I yellow? Do I look like I have jaundice of the liver?
She's
Okay. Wait, hold on. Okay, do I move here or like here?
Nina's box, okay, Liz?
I'm gonna let
I'm still a little sick, so I'm gonna
I
be
know, I
sucking on a
hear
Ricola.
that. Oh
I
no.
know.
Oh,
You
It's
suck
okay.
on that Ricola.
Can you hear my mic okay?
oh, there we go. Oh wait, while you're doing that, hold on. Excuse me. Glam team coming in. A
Yeah.
little clear lip gloss.
Ooh, love.
Thank you, thank you.
I just put my little Thrive mark. Is it Thrive? No.
Oh, you do Thrive Market?
Wait.
Market.
Yeah. Not the grocery store.
Right. Thrive
That
Market.
Aggie gets her iced coffee from.
Doing I get your like beans.
Not me. Not
Oh, I
me.
thought you're on Thrive.
I just like beep whoever Aggie is at is.
Shout out to Aggie. You'll have to add her. She's our other college roommate.
Yeah, she's the part of the trio.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we should just jump into it, shall we,
Let's
Liz?
do it. Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You ready?
Mm.
Welcome to Hustle and Schmear, the podcast where we pile it high, talk it fast, and cover everything from business to bagels. I'm Liz Cohen.
And I'm Jason Salstein.
Today's episode is extra special because we are going to be joined by someone I've known since college. Shout out NYU. Shout out Torch.
Woo.
Yeah, purple and white.
Go Violets.
Fortune.
Woo! The insanely talented Minna Choi, founder of the legendary Magik Magik Orchestra.
Don't wrestle with me.
She's worked with everyone from Death Cab for Cutie to Weezer, but more importantly, she survived living with me freshman year.
Which means we've got extra embarrassing stories coming your way, whether Liz likes it or not. Minna has built an inspiring career at the intersection of artistry and commerce, and today we're diving into how she turned her passion from music into a thriving brand and business.
From the early days of hustle to the reality of making it work, we're excited to hear how she's made it all happen, figured out life along the way, and fine, maybe we get a few roommate secrets. I don't know.
I think we're getting more than a
Get
few,
into
Minna.
it. Let's get into it. Welcome, Minna, to Hustle and Schmear. Woo!
Wow.
Hope is immediately standing ovation to begin.
Thank you. That was a great intro. That was like very well rehearsed. A little back and forth, little like, yes.
You today.
I am
Where
coming
does
from you live from Sausalito, California.
Yes.
The most exciting place on earth. It's beautiful. So here's the thing about Sausalito. For those of you who don't know where that is, if you know what the Golden Gate Bridge is, the Golden Gate Bridge connects San Francisco to Sausalito. So the two cities it connects. It's across the water. It's a Marin. It's very beautiful. It's very peaceful. It's very boring. It's touristy. I call it the Cape Cod of the West Coast. So I'm just kind of like thinking about my life and how different it is from what I expected it to be when Liz and I were 18 and first met at the dormitories.
Oh, so there we go. We're going to launch right on.
Way.
How did you and Liz meet? Let's hear all about it.
So Liz and I were the randomly assigned roommates at NYU. So you sign up to be in a dorm at NYU and then you're just assigned a roommate. And I was assigned to Liz and we had our first summer phone call and she was horrified because I was very quiet and shy. I grew up very sheltered my high school experience was very suburban Maryland, sheltered. And, you know, I'm daughter of quiet. Yeah, and I'm the only child, daughter of Korean immigrants, Asian family. You don't speak until you're spoken to. It's a very, very disciplined house. So I just grew
Right.
very
The opposite
quiet.
of
I
mine.
was just gonna say, opposite of mine. We're like, hey. So I call her and I'm like, hey, Minna? Like, oh yeah, Minna Choi. And she was like, hello. And I'm like, oh my. I was like, how do I get a new roommate? I need one immediately.
Were you guys
Oh.
We did too. No, no, no. So she was my roommate. And then who was our, oh wait,
And then in the,
Oh boy, let's hear it.
first year it was,
wasn't it
are we
Heather?
gonna say it? No. Oh yeah, it was Heather, who we don't know where she is anymore. So
Oh,
that's
Heather and Crazy Jen.
Holler.
yeah, Crazy Jen. Crazy Jen.
Yes.
Oh.
So on our floor, we had Crazy Jen and Vegan Jen. We had two Jens, so we had to differentiate them.
Yeah.
So in our dorm was Crazy Jen.
What made Jen crazy?
Well, we might have to cut this part out, but she did have I think she had a MDB, and then she, I think, transferred to another school and actually became lesbian. Okay.
Good for her. So you guys are roommates, and let's hear about what it's like.
Okay, so Liz's mom is 18 years older than Liz. So Liz shows up with her mom and they look like sisters. And you're
Shout out
just,
Renee, shout out.
yeah. And you're like, wait,
Going to
who's the
college.
college student here? That's one of the first things I remember is like your
my
mom
God,
just
that's
looked
so
like one of us. She looked so young.
That mom leaves, and then it's like, hi, roommate.
And then we're just figuring it out. I do remember distinct freshman year memories of Minna pulling all-nighters. I can't sleep with the light on, so I just remember
I know, I felt so bad. I'm such a terrible student.
and then I would wake her up, but not intentionally. But what was the song, Minna? I was trying to remember.
Scarlet Pimpernel Overture. French horn. Da da. Every morning on her little Sony CD player boombox.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Every
also
morning.
learned a little Korean because Mina's mom would call and we had a shared phone. I guess this is before
It was before cell phones, so we had our dorm phone.
So what's the
sounds so
moshi moshi of Korean?
No, but it was Mina, oh my
On
day.
Monday.
It's like Mina, it's your mom. So
Yeah.
that's the thing I learned.
So
Shout out
what,
to the
what
Korean.
does that mean exactly?
It means Mina, it's mom.
Yeah. Yeah, it's mom. Never forget it. Never forget it. Okay. Oh, you're in college. What was your major?
So when I was in high school, I wanted to do like, music is my first love. I learned how to press play and rewind and play and rewind on a cassette tape before I learned how to talk. My mom loves to tell this story.
Oh, that's good.
I'm a child of immigrants, so when I told my parents I would love to do music, they're like, absolutely not. So, well,
But a lot of don't a lot of Asian kids play music instruments?
yes.
It's a common thing.
It's just meant to be basically like exercise for your brain. It's not meant to be a career
You're not going to be a
choice.
musician, right?
Yeah.
Got it. Oh, that's a yo-yo ma.
I mean that would be a perfect example. My parents would say, "You're not Yo-Yo Ma. You're not Michael Jackson. Like you're not a once in a generation talent.
Oh.
So music is off the table." That my parents were like, "You have to do something where you're essentially guaranteed a job after." And I was like, "Oh, what about like being a doctor?" They're like, "No, you're not smart enough." I was like, well, "What about?" And I was like, "What about lawyer?" They're like, "You don't like to read."
I'm titling this. Second.
So they're like, what about like marketing or like communications? So I studied communications. It's so vague and general. It's what people do when they don't know what to do. I studied communications under this promise, like, okay, well, you'll do this thing that you really don't care about at all, but at least you'll get a job after. So that's why I did it. And then at NYU, I did tons of music on the side because that's the thing I love. So I was in a band. I was in a couple a cappella groups and the a cappella.
What was the name of the a cappella group?
There were two.
Oh, okay. I
There was
remember.
an all-girl one. That was my first
Oh,
one, called the Kleptomaniacs.
Yes, I remember that.
Oh, acapella names are always like so corny. They're all covers, kind of like Pitch Perfect, but you write your own like arrangements. They're called like acapella arrangements. And then the other one was called the Enharmonics.
Those
Yes.
a lot of like nighttime activity for
Yeah, I mean that's where I learned how to write music. I learned how to like write different parts for different people, and they all have to fit together just right. Long story short, I studied communications, which I had zero interest in, which is why I never started all of my papers until the night before.
It's all makes sense.
I just had no interest in
Just
this.
weren't interested in it.
I
Oh, okay, got it.
I
Got
just
it.
kind of did it to be like the good, obedient Korean daughter that listens to
Mhm.
her parents.
Wait, so what, wait, but Mina, when were you playing instruments? So before college, before high school, did you play an instrument early on? What was your first memory of that?
Well, the first thing every kid does is they sing. So my first memory of music is just singing along to
Okay.
songs. And then the first instrument I played was piano. So I got to give a shout out to my kindergarten public school teacher. Her name is Miss Elizabeth, and oh yeah, hello.
Excellent.
Yes, excellent name. And she would play guitar every day, like a sing-along hour guitar in school. And I don't remember this, but another one of the stories my mom likes to say is she went for a PTA parent-teacher thing, and Miss Elizabeth to my mom was like, "Oh, does Mina take music lessons?" And my mom was like, "No." She's like, "You should sign her up for piano because whenever I take out my guitar, she walks to the piano that we had a piano in the classroom, and she can hear what I play and like play it back to me on the piano."
Whoa, I just got the.
And so she's like, "She's got a really good ear. You should sign her up for some kind of music lessons." And that's why my mom signed me up for group piano lessons. And we couldn't afford private yet,
Okay.
but you could take like 12 kids in a classroom each with headphones and a keyboard and you learn the basics. So I
Oh,
did that.
was your mom musical, or was anyone in your family musical?
My
Or
dad was
okay,
musical.
What did
okay,
he do?
But when he was in college, he played bass in a rock band.
Oh,
so
I know, so
cool.
crazy.
my
Because
dad
my
played
dad,
the tambourine.
oh, very nice. Very nice.
Wow, Mr.
Tambourine is
Choi.
hard. Yeah,
He
tambourine's
played,
not
he
easy,
played
by
in
the
a
by.
band. I don't remember what it was called, and there's a picture of him. I don't know with the whole group. It looks like a Jewish version of the Beatles.
Oh, very nice.
Right?
So he was Jewish Ringo if he was playing
Wait,
the tambourine.
is tambourine really hard? Because I feel like you
It
can kind of
is. No, 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 it
Listen,
is.
like to keep.
Miss Minna Choi just said it is, and my dad will now take it to the grave.
Oh,
Okay.
yes. Yeah.
Hey, Mr. Salstein, Howie.
Yes. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh.
So you're exposed to the piano, and
Hmm.
do your parents see your talent right away? Are you excited when you are taking lessons? Is this a passion?
So I hated piano lessons. I hated every minute of it. My job right now is I'm a composer. I'm not a classical pianist who plays in concert halls and stuff. The reason I hated piano is because I was only learning classical piano. Like, I didn't really understand like, the sound of classical music. Just sounds very old. It just sounds like it's from like a completely other time. And like, what does this have to do with like me growing up in the 90s? I hear Lauryn Hill on the radio and like I'm trying to like play Mozart on the piano. Nothing makes sense. Like, and so like the way to get good at classical piano is you just have to almost like a robot play it over and over and the same thing. And I don't have the attention span for that. And so I was bad at it. I didn't practice because I hated doing the same thing over and over. So I didn't practice. I would go to my lessons, not do very well. But I loved music. I loved listening to the radio. I had a couple girlfriends that loved to sing. They would come to my house. We would listen to Boyz II Men songs on the radio and we would teach ourselves how to sing it the same way. We would sing it at school. Dun, da, 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 da. Exact. Okay, we've got our Wanye. We've got Nate. We've got
Live.
Sean.
About another round of Philly cheesesteak for me and my friend. Coming to you live from
That's
Pepe's,
right.
Miami Design
That's
District.
right.
There we go.
That's right.
So you weren't good, but then you were like singing and you were harmonizing with your friends. It's so fun.
I was making up my own songs on the piano. I was singing with my friends, and I was kind of coming up with early a cappella style stuff with my friends in high school. I was constantly in headphones. I lived in my headphones. I was just one of the
You listen-
people. Oh God, Mariah Carey was my number one in high
Oh
school.
God.
Favorite
Lauryn Hill.
favorite Mariah and Lauren song that was impactful when you were growing up?
So my favorite Lauren song, which I do sing even now, I do it as a cover, is X Factor. And then a favorite Mariah song, there's so many. I mean, we have to narrow it down to which favorite song on which record.
Album, right?
Yeah. I will say this. I recently listened to her MTV Unplugged album, and I gotta say, wow, some of the older stuff is like so good.
Wait, it's so funny. We were just talking about Mariah. I just literally told Minna because I guess there's something going around online and it was people discovering or rediscovering the emancipation of me. And I was like, Minna, stop what you're doing right now and listen. You have to put circles on. I just forgot. It's so good.
Nope.
When I was really little, I had a lot of like medical problems from 0 to like 10. I had seizures. So she was constantly having to watch everything I was doing. She was very vigilant, had to just be watching over you like all the time. And so definitely very heavy handed. And I grew up in an environment where you're never told, hey, you did a good job. The best you're ever told is that wasn't bad. You're like, oh, wow, it wasn't bad. But I will say this, my mom, she's pretty modern feminist for the era she grew up in. It's very unusual if you're a Korean family that you only have one child and it's a girl, because everybody wants to have a boy. You see a lot of Korean families where it's like girl, 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 boy, stop. And so she was just like, I don't need a boy. Girls can do what boys can do. She really did push me though. You just have to work really hard. But like she was thinking like businesswoman, like banker, not artist, because to her, artists are starving artists. There's no such thing as like an artist who can pay their bills. And so that was kind of off the table. She did instill in me, if you work hard, you can achieve. But I also do think it's just kind of my natural personality that I have a little bit of a rebellious streak. Even though it was very tamped down in my family. In high school, I would walk around without shoes on. I was a hippie. And I would just kind of do what I wanted without much concern about what other people thought. That was kind of my style.
Would you say you marched to the beat of your own drum, or did...
Yes. I do think I have been marching to the beat of my own drum as much as I could in the environment that I grew up in. Yeah. But then when I went to NYU, that's when it really, I think, could become free. Because my parents were no longer around. Right. And you're in New York City.
So you're in New York, you're, I guess, 19, living with Liz.
Yes.
Are you utilizing the city's culture at the time? Are you guys going to Lincoln Center? Are you seeing the symphony?
We can't afford that.
Right.
You're in college.
Like student, like I remember us getting maybe TKTS.
Yeah, like student rush tickets for...
Go to the box office day of, and you can get something like that.
And this is what Broadway shows?
Yeah, Broadway.
But we did more, or I don't know, Minna, if you feel this way, but I definitely remember us going to like off Broadway. Yeah. Blue Man Group before it was a thing. It was in that zany theater by Astor Place, and we got to go for free, and you just handed out playbills and toilet paper.
You know, we also saw Matt and Ben. Do you remember Matt and Ben?
Oh, I know. What was Matt
That
and
was
Ben?
Mindy Kaling's first show off Broadway, and she played Ben Affleck, and there was another person who played Matt Damon.
Did we see that?
We saw that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
We did a revival.
I forgot. Oh my God, that's so awesome. Remember? And then they kind of came home with us that night.
Who?
But not in a scandal.
Let's get into this.
Not in a scandalous way, but it was like that shit. Were you there, or was it just Heather? It was the hip hop Shakespeare show.
I think I was there.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah, I think I was there.
And I think you liked one of the guys there.
I probably did.
Let's just get really into it. Was there ever a time where Liz had a sock or a tie around the
No, we didn't do that freshman
We
year.
were so
lame.
like shy and prude. Yeah, yes, totally.
Or there were boys, but not coming over.
No.
Are band boys freaks?
Band boys?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't played with any.
Like acapella boys?
Or like rock band boys.
Yeah.
My first kiss ever was a guitarist. My first kiss ever was Mark.
No.
Yes. I did not date in high school. I didn't kiss boys, and I grew up super sheltered in high school.
You went full in on that.
Full in on the rock star.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Rebellion's at its best.
New York City was a life changer for me. All the places I lived growing up were like Berkeley, which is a small town in California. Right. And then I moved to the suburbs of Maryland. I never lived in a walkable city. I didn't have a single gay friend in high school. My first gay friend was Ryan in Edinburgh.
It's like which is so cool because you have such an eclectic, open group of friends that you like
Yes.
went completely the other way of like your upbringing. I
Oh,
love
totally. And I had never seen an indie movie. I didn't know what indie rock music was. I only knew movies that were blockbusters, and I only knew songs that were popular enough to be on the radio. I didn't ever own a vinyl record. So going to New York, just a whole world of independent music, independent film, and people who are doing things on a small scale, but they're doing what they love. I had never seen that.
Right.
You're taking classes, you graduate, you throw the cap with Liz. What happens next?
Everything happened then.
Yeah.
And by everything happened, nothing happened. But it was the biggest life-changing experience. I graduate at 4 years studying this thing that I have very lukewarm feelings about just for the promise of a job. So I paid my dues. I was a good little girl. It's all right. Sending out all the resumes literally every day on mediabistro.com. Hundreds of apps, no job. And you're at this moment of, wait, I only did this thing that I don't like so that I would get a job. And now I'm being rejected at something I don't even want to do. So I made a decision just a few months after. And I was like, I'm going to cut my losses and I'm starting over.
Do you remember where you were when you had that epiphany, when you actually realized?
Yes. I had left New York because I couldn't afford to live in New York. So I moved in with my uncle in New Jersey, who was like, you can live with me for free for a while you sort some things out. And I remember it was probably just after month 2 of sending out resumes and getting no interviews, no anything. Okay, I can just keep kind of beating my head against this wall and hoping to get a job. But for what? I don't even really want to do this. Or I can just cut my losses, which is hard to do, by the way. After 4 years, admit this was a mistake. I've made a mistake. And I would rather, if this is the box I'm in now, I can move over to this box, which is be failing at something I want to do, as opposed to failing at something I don't want to do.
Like you needed that permission from your parents?
I totally did, because old habits die hard. Cultural conditioning is really strong. So maybe I made a mistake is not the right language, but I need to change something. Okay, I did this for 4 years. Right. It's not what I want to do anymore. If I go switch to music, at least it's something I love. I'm not going to be successful off the bat. But I'm not successful anyway right now. So what does it matter? I decided that I'm going to just do it over, kind of do college all over.
I don't even think we knew this because like we were in law school at the time. I remember staying with Minna in the East. Like you had a couple different apartments.
Right, yeah.
In my mind, she was killing it. She was already in the studio and doing stuff. And I didn't know this whole part.
So go back. You're in Jersey. You're with your uncle. You have this epiphany that you're going to music.
I had this epiphany that I want to go back to school, and this time I want to go back to school for music. And you have a choice, I have a bachelor's, and I'm like, I don't want another bachelor's. I want to just get a master's in music. But the problem is you can't apply for a master's in music unless you have a bachelor's of music or what they would call an equivalent. And so I was like, well, I'm not going to go back to college and get a second bachelor's. So I started taking music night school classes at Juilliard, Manhattan, and Mannes. The 3 big conservatories of New York all have night school programs, and they're taught by a lot of the same professors that teach the undergrad. So you're getting a great education. So for 4 years, I would take classes at night, and then eventually I got a job working for a music lawyer. Then I moved back to New York City. So I worked for a fabulous Jewish music lawyer named Terry Baker.
Hey, Terry, what's up?
Terry Baker, Esquire, at 1740 Broadway.
Miss Baker, what up? Not Anita.
Yes, Miss. I was basically just like her, not a paralegal because I'm not trained in paralegal, but like secretary / revising agreements, redlining agreements, making 4 copies to send to Atlantic Records. Craig Kalman, can you sign 4 of them and send them back? Stuff like that.
You're getting hands-on experience, and it wasn't just going to get someone's coffee.
She's learning deals.
Back then, it was different, right? You were thrown into the lion's den, and you better make it.
But Terry taught me so much. I was terrified of her when I worked for her because she was really scary. She used to work at a big law firm. Right. She went out on her own. And so to be like a solo lawyer with your own practice in the music industry,
Woman, by the way, right?
woman, like no one listens to you unless you're yelling at them. She would be screaming all the time. And I'm like, "Hi, Terry,
For
I did it."
performance, for performative dominance in a way, as a woman to step up and to
I
say,
think she had to be like such a pit bull a little bit, like had to be like so aggressive for people to take her call, to return her call, to like, like do what she said like the first time. Terry taught me to not take no for an answer. She's the person I attribute to that one thing. And I would never have learned that if I didn't work for her, because she modeled it every single day. And it looks kind of scary what she's doing, but it seems to be working. I would work for her in the day. It was like a normal 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. And then at night, I would either go to one of the classes, or I got an internship at a hip hop recording studio called Unique Recording at Times Square. So I started working there 2 or 3 days a week.
in the studio.
In the studio, yeah. I would say that my kind of 4-year transition to music was working for Terry during the day, going to music school at night, and working at the recording studio.
So we can say hands-on experience attributed to
Yes.
acceleration of your career, or the idea that you knew in the moment where you should be as a person? Or were you just hustling like, I got to pay the bills?
I was hustling. I was too young, I think, to like feel confident, like I know what I'm doing. When you're young, you kind of don't know what you're doing. You just kind of hope for the best and like pick a direction and try. But I was also in an indie rock band called Illumina. We were playing shows and I was getting in the indie rock scene, but I was also getting into the hip hop scene through the studio and the classical scene through like all the classes at Juilliard and Manus. But I was trying everything. I went headlong into it. But what your question about seeking my parents' approval, even when I was doing that, and I told my parents, this is a plan, I want to study for 4 years at night and accumulate enough classes to create like a music degree and then go get my master's in music. My parents were like, we will only really support you if you go to business school at the same time. And so I started studying for the GMAT, which is the test you have to take to go to business school. And when you're in your 20s and in New York, the amount of energy you're able to muster, like these days, I would be able to do less than a 10th.
I know, that's so true. But wait, I also remember you in the studio. So I think it's the same studio.
Probably. Legs?
Yeah. And you were at the piano. They brought you in to like record. I just remember it felt like she was kind of a big deal in
You
there.
weren't just plugging in the plug.
No, that's what I'm saying. I just wanted to set the stage. I thought we were going to walk in and she's like, hi guys, welcome in, they record. And she's like in there with the piano. I'm like, oh, she's like, but anyway. So you were just, I remember you being kind of young with these guys who were in the studio, but holding it down with them.
And what were you doing? Were you playing? Were you making sure that the engineer was doing his job? Was it everything?
Yes, I first got in because I applied to this internship program where you're paired with an engineer and they're supposed to teach you all about recording engineering. So that's originally how I got in. But I quickly discovered that engineering and the mechanics of signal flow and recording, that's not really I don't really care that much about microphones. Like, I just love music. I love making music. I don't really care about this mic versus that mic. And so eventually this one producer named Lazy Legs Diamond, shout out to Lazy Legs from the Bronx, would come in and book a whole week at the studio, a lock, which is really expensive. That's thousands of dollars to book a whole lock, a week lock. And
oh, I know, Minna, because I used to work at Sony BMG
yes,
in our admin, paying those Sears studio bills every week. Okay, Jim, I'm paying those bills. That's how I met Liz. She was across the hall.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. Wait, Liz, you're muted.
Oopsies.
I won't tell
But yes, oh yeah, Jason would come into my office and he's like, hey, I'm like, I don't know when he was working, but no, yeah. That's what we definitely would chit chat.
So this producer found out I had a good ear and that I could play piano and sing. And so then he started booking me not too much to engineer and assist the engineer, but to play keys, sing demo tracks, play flute. He's the first person who ever hired me to write a string arrangement. It was for a hip hop track, and he would like sing what he wants in my ear and I would write it down. And we would get students from Juilliard to come and play them. And that was like my first foray into like writing string music for tracks and like recordings.
That's cool.
So 4 years of that, and then I finally applied. I told my parents I can't apply to business school. It's like too much. But I told them, look, I'm going to apply this year to a bunch of music schools. If I don't get into any of them, I'll drop it. That was my promise to them. I was like, it's a sign
Right.
from the world that this is not meant to be. I'll
Right.
drop it and I'll apply to business school next year.
So even though you were having a good time
Yes.
and making money, you were going to drop it if you weren't going to get in.
Cultural conditioning is very, it's like my family, my parents really, it impacts you. Like, and so
Oh, we're right. Just to be clear, know all about it. It's maybe it comes in a different form because it's definitely like you could do anything you want, but then it's also like when I remember I cried one time, I was at a law firm job when you were summering, and I was like, I don't think this is for me. And trust me, I was told that it better be for me, and
Yep.
so sometimes you need that tough love. That's okay.
Yeah, but that made me feel like I have one chance. I have one chance, and it made me really work hard on my applications and try to learn as much music as I could.
Did Terry write you a recommendation letter?
Of course she did.
Oh, so
That's
good.
right.
Yes.
Don't those recommendation letters honestly mean the world, I think? And
Gosh,
your
yeah.
advice would be to do everything, put in that extra work.
Oh, yeah. Your boss's reputation is your reputation. But if you're working under somebody like that, your job is to make them look good. Because if they succeed, you will succeed. You're definitely not in competition with the person who's
Right.
paying your bills. You're on the same team.
Right.
So you send out a bunch of applications to music
master's programs in music composition, like classical music composition. I get into 3 schools, and I got into NYU, which I didn't want to go to again. I got into CalArts, it's down in LA. And then I got into the school I ended up going to, which is the San Francisco Conservatory of Music. And that's where life completely changed.
Oh,
like
yes.
everything
Let's
changed.
talk about that.
Wow.
What changed? How did it change?
I come to San Francisco, and I have 2 years to make shit happen.
Ooh.
And again, I was one of the oldest people in my class. I was 26. So I'm coming into this really classical conservative school where all my peers they've been playing violin their whole life, or they're coming straight out of a classical program. And I feel it immediately. My first day of school, I came into conservatory being like, ooh, wouldn't it be so great to be the next great American composer, a la Philip Glass or John Adams, one of the traditional ones. And the first day, I'm like, we've got to redirect this dream.
By the way, I love how Liz and I are nodding as if we know who those people are. Jonathan Glass. Yep, Jonathan Glass. Absolutely. Jonathan Glass.
No, Philip Glass.
Oh, Philip Glass. I'm sorry. More.
Sounds familiar. He's well known.
Yeah. Ira Glass's cousin.
Okay.
Um,
So you're like, I gotta pivot.
redirect,
Like,
immediate pivot. First day, first hour, all of my classmates are writing like string quartet fugue concertos since they were 5 years old.
Oh.
And I'm coming out of the hip hop studio, out of indie rock, like out of NYU. I'm like, okay, I will never be able to compete in that world, that classical, traditional world.
Right.
It was immediate pivot. And that's where all of my business and New York and internship and recording experience, it was just like, okay, I'm not going to be that. I've got to do something else. My second semester is when I thought of the idea of Magik Magik Orchestra. And that was basically a small business. It's a music business. It's not, oh, I want to be the next great opera composer.
Right.
I was like,
But it's so badass. Okay, but so how did you think about it? And I want to know how you got to that name.
Well, first, what is magic?
so Magik Magik Orchestra is what you call a work for hire orchestra. Sometimes you see violinists and cellists in random projects like film scores, or Sting is playing at Carnegie Hall with a symphony orchestra. If you really open your eyes, you actually notice that orchestra players get hired in a lot of non-classical contexts all the time. And so I knew that because I worked at the hip hop studio, and we would get students from Juilliard to come play on hip hop tracks. I knew that there was a lot of desire from people outside of classical music to work with classical musicians, but they're hard to get to. Non-classical people want classical people, but unless you get the right people, it's not a good experience. Once I started at school, I'm meeting all these violinists and cellists in the hallway, and I'm becoming friends with them. And you tell them what you used to do, like, oh, I used to work at a studio, and I used to play in an indie rock band. We had a violinist in our band. They're like, oh my God, I would love to do that, but I don't know how or where I would even go. So I just kind of was like, okay, there's desire from the client side. There's desire from, for lack of a word, the vendor side, the player side, and they want to meet. and they want to work together, but there's no easy way.
Right.
And so that's why I was like, if we started an orchestra and its sole purpose is to get classical musicians into non-classical projects, then I think we could have like some sort of semblance of a small business here. And that's how it started.
Wow. And what year was this?
There was spring 2008.
Wow. So that's
It's been 17 years.
17 years. Wow, Minna, that's awesome.
You're in grad school and you think of this business idea and you actually form the company while you're at school.
So I have my school directory of every player and what instrument they play. I told a couple people about this idea, including my former bandmate Jen, who is a publicist. And I told her all about it, and she just kind of mentioned it to a couple people in passing. And then cut to June 2008, I get an random email in my inbox from this guy, Ronan Givoni from New York. And he's like, hey, I run a concert series in New York. I want to bring it to California. And we want to do this piece written by Jonny Greenwood, who's the guitarist in Radiohead. He writes classical music now. And we just did it in New York. It sold out like 3 nights. And we want to do the same thing in California, but we don't have an orchestra. And Jen told me that you're starting an orchestra. Would you want to do this first show with me? And I was like, oh my God, like with the Radiohead guy? I mean, he's not playing, but it's a piece that he wrote. And that summer, Radiohead was headlining the first ever Outside Lands Music Festival. It was the first one, 2008.
Wow.
And they were the headliner.
Amazing.
So Ronan was like, if we can get him to the show the day before they play at Outside Lands, it would be such a coup. And so cut to just I say yes, and then I just immediately start emailing, calling every string player in the school, being like, I'm starting an orchestra. We have a concert in August. Can you play? It pays like it pays nothing, like $100. I had no idea what I was doing. You're just like, oh, I guess we book a venue. I had $5,000 in my savings account at the time, which was the entirety of my savings. And I used $2,700 of that to put a deposit on the venue, on the concert venue.
Oh, wow.
Then I used another 100 of that to get custom t-shirts made that said Magik Magik Orchestra in true girl entrepreneur fashion.
It's all about branding.
It's all about the merch.
The merch is important.
Yeah.
We know.
And
wow, that's so funny.
And that first show sold out. Every paper was there. Jonny came. He sat in the box and watched the show. And then the next day played Outside Lands. It was all like beginning. And then after that, it was off to the races. But that was a really good place to start from. We had failures, tons of failures after that too. But it was nice to have a success in the beginning.
Your first show with Magik Magik.
Yes.
You're still in school. What are your parents saying on your first show where you're in school and you just had this huge show with Radioheads?
Yeah.
So my parents didn't truly get it until the next year, because then the next year, Sting was doing a big gala at Davies Symphony Hall that was functioning as a fundraiser for my school. And the guy putting it together is this famous record producer from the 80s and 90s named Narada Michael Walden. He's worked with Whitney, Mariah, Michael, everybody, like divas. And so he was putting the whole show together. And he was like, well, if it's a fundraiser for the school, what if we have students play? And someone at the school said, don't have students play. You should have this other orchestra play, Magik Magik. It's essentially students, but it's organized by one of our students. And they'll be more flexible because it's not an official school thing. And so he calls me and he's like, we need a 60-person orchestra to play with Sting and a bunch of other artists at Davies. Can you put it together? And can you write all the string arrangements for it? And I was like, yes.
And then you figure it out.
And then you figure it out. And that's when my parents flew in from Korea and they went to my graduation. And then 2 days later, they're at Davies, where the orchestra I started is playing with Sting on stage. And that's when my parents were like, okay, fine. We approve.
I love how you have to work with Sting to get like some the parentals.
But that's when they were like, okay, fine, we get it.
How do you figure it out? How you charge? How are you making money?
Yes.
Who's mentoring you? This is a new idea that you don't even have a rubric or a playbook to look at.
I love talking about money, like money as a freelancer, because
I love spending it.
When you're a freelancer, you don't know. First of all, it's something creative. There's no standard. You could charge $1 million for a string arrangement. You could charge nothing. You can charge as much as people are willing to pay. You should be charging the max that someone out there is willing to pay. And everyone is willing to pay for different reasons. For example, when I first started the orchestra, I was writing string arrangements for small indie artists, and I did them all for free in the beginning. Right. I worked with Dustin O'Halloran, who is now a pretty famous film composer. He wrote music for Marie Antoinette, but now he did Lion. But back then, he had never worked with strings, and he called me because he heard through the grapevine that I'm a nice person to work with. I wrote all his string parts for free because he didn't have the budget, but I wanted to get my name out there. I wanted to get my reputation. And so in the beginning, you're doing things for free because you're building your reputation. At a certain point, someone somewhere is going to offer you money or ask you what you charge because they're willing to pay you. And your job at that point is basically just take your best guess as to what they're willing to pay and why they're willing to pay. Some people are willing to pay top dollar, not because they think you're so great, but they're willing to pay top dollar because they just want to have it taken care of. And they don't want to haggle. They're too busy. And some people, sometimes the really rich clients haggle the most. And so you just you never know. There's no rhyme or reason to anything. But one thing that I will say as a freelancer that's amazing, when you're a freelancer, I can give myself a raise tomorrow. That's 500% what I make today, as long as I can find one person willing to pay that. If I can find one person willing to pay for whatever reason they've decided in their head it's worth it to them, that's my new rate moving forward. So that's what happened with the Sting gig. Before the Sting gig, my rate for a string arrangement was $50, $100 on a good day. When I got the Sting gig, an orchestra has strings, it has brass, has percussion. Because there were so many artists and so many songs, there was 30 songs. Sting was just one of 20 artists that night. The producer was like, I need to have 4 arrangers. I need a vocal arranger for all the background vocals. Nina's going to do the strings. Frank's going to do all the keyboard and the band. And Wayne's going to do all the brass and the horn parts. I was 27 and everybody else was in their 50s. They're his people who he'd been working with for 30 years. And I was they were all men, yeah. And I was the new little kid on the block. And so he just paid everyone the same. It's everyone's getting $500 a song.
Love that.
And so that day, my rate went from $50 a song to $500 a song. And then from then on, when someone asks you, what's your rate? You say $500 a song. That's what I got last time.
Shout out Sting. Shout out this whole situation.
Yeah, but next time, somewhere, somehow, someone's going to offer you more for whatever reason that you don't understand. And now that's your new rate. So now my rate is $1,000 a song. That's kind of what I say to people when they ask, what do you charge? It doesn't mean I always get it. There are times when I really want to do it for whatever reason. I think it's going to be good for my resume or good for my website or whatever. I'll do a lesser rate. When you're a freelancer, you can jump your price overnight if the stars align correctly. And that's one of the great advantages to being a freelancer over being a staff.
But there's a lot of work involved in that too.
Of
there's
course.
a level of confidence that you need. And also when you know that you're getting a paycheck, there's an ease to that and there's a stability to that. But to your point, you can't then go reach for the stars and get all of these new rates and new.
Some would say that a paycheck is comfortability, and it's when you're only at a point where you only eat what you kill. Wow, daddy's got a hunt.
But but I will say, it's not easy. I think for 20 years, my personal life, love life, that was last priority. It was
We're gonna get into that.
All about work, all about the client. I missed so many weddings, funerals, bachelor parties. I never went to those things because I was either working or I was on tour. So yeah.
Now you have the company, you graduate. Do you have a business plan? Where in your mind are you where it's okay, I graduated, I've worked with Sting, what am I doing now? Because it's a big deal, and then you have to make life decisions. Again, do you have a mentor or somebody who's done this before, or are you paving the way for others before Fiverr even existed?
So I graduate and then I'm kind of just freelancing for a while, but not making that much money. I was playing piano at local churches on Sunday, and somehow I got an email that there's a local church that's starting a second location and they need someone to run the music program. And they found out about me through someone and they're asking, do you want to apply? So I was like, yes, of course. And so it just so happened that the person running that program knew of the orchestra. He had seen us before and he's like, I know about Magik Magik Orchestra and we want to hire you. And this was a full-time job, like a, 401k, healthcare. And so I was kind of on the fence of, okay, wow, that sounds great to have stable income and healthcare and a 401k, but I just started this great group. I want to see where this goes. And the biggest blessing in my life is my boss, Carl, the one who hired me, was like, the last thing I want is that you work here and your orchestra just dies. And so from the beginning, this was so forward thinking and incredibly outside of the box. He changed my work contract at the church so that my 40 hours could include orchestra time. I had to work 40 hours to qualify for healthcare, to qualify for 401k. And so he's like, one of our beliefs at the church is that music is supposed to make the city more beautiful. We do it on Sunday mornings for our service, but if you're going to be doing it in these other ways, I want to support that. And so if you get a Magik Magik recording session, if you have to go on tour or you have to do this, whatever hours you spend on that will count it towards your church work
Carl
hours.
living the Jesus life, right?
Yeah.
Carl living the Jesus
Yes.
life.
Such a way to support.
It's such an amazing way to support like up and coming artists.
So he basically gave you that opportunity to have a stability of a job, have a paycheck, and yet still have freedom that if you were able to get an opportunity as well, he would understand and work around your schedule.
Yep. And if it was
so unique.
It's so unique. And I really attribute the success of Magik Magik Orchestra to Carl, because if he could have been a stickler, be like, fine, you have to do magic, but only on the weekends or after work hours. Right. But he was like, you can do it. He's like, if you have a recording session Wednesday on a
free tickets, right?
Yeah, of course I gave him all the free tickets. But like, you can take any session anytime. He's like, all I ask is you come on Sunday prepared, which I always did. I did that for 13 years. I just wish more employers would be a bit more open-minded. Look, if I get my work done, and the work I did for the church was A+, I know that the music was amazing, and I always showed up ready to go, even if I had only slept like an hour, because I was working something else the night before. But you show up and you get your shit done.
You made it work.
Yeah,
work.
I was making a lot more at the church than I was at Magik every year. But little by little, it starts catching up. And towards the end, I was waking actually far more with the orchestra than I was at the church.
When do you leave the church? Take Magik to the next level where it can support you fully.
So my last day at the church was Christmas Day 2022. And at that time, I was still working. I had 3 jobs. I worked at the church. I worked at Magik doing freelance orchestra stuff. I was also the music director of a traveling theater show called Pop-It Magazine.
Yes, I wanted to talk about
and
Yay.
So I was their music director, and they were getting really busy. So I was like, okay, I'm at a point now where I can quit. I was making, at the end of the church, my last year, I think I was making like 80. And then I make maybe anywhere between like 30 and 50 on the orchestra side. And so like I was expecting to make about like 130. And then I quit the church job. I was like, okay, so I still have pop-up. It's Christmas Day. Literally 2 days later, December 27th, I get a call from the founder of Pop-Up Magazine saying they're going out of business in the new year.
Ooh.
And I was like, oh my God. I was freaking out. I was like, do I start delivering groceries for Instacart? Like, what's happening here? I was like, my car is too small for Uber. I have a smart car. I looked at my savings, and I have enough in savings to last about a year if I don't work. And I'm not going to panic and just get a part-time job or just get any job. I'm going to trust a little bit, out there in the world. I have my savings to fall back on. Let me just do little gigs. I got a little film scoring gig for like Agonia, and then I got a little this or a little that, but not a lot. These are $5,000 gigs, maybe enough to last you, I don't know, half a month or a month. I did that for about 6 months. And then finally I was getting desperate because I'm not getting a lot of work. And I did a total Hail Mary pass. I emailed the woman who had sponsored our last pop-up tour, our Growing Out of Business. We did one last tour, and she came in as the lead sponsor. She lives in LA, and she's a huge fan. And she has a charity, basically like a nonprofit, that funds media companies and storytelling and stuff. And as a lead sponsor, I wrote music for her because she told a little story at the show. And when we toured in the spring, she was always just like telling me, oh, I love the music. Like, it's so beautiful. I love music. So I was like, you know what? This woman I met a long time ago once told me she liked my music. I have nothing to lose by emailing her and just being like, remember me? Like, I don't know if you remember me, but I wrote music for you on the last pop-up tour. As you know, pop-up's not in business anymore, and I'm kind of looking for my next thing. I checked out your website. You have a lot of content, Instagram content, video content, but not a lot of it has music. And if it does has music, I can tell that it's just stock music. And I was like, if you're interested, it looks like you have 2 art directors, but you have no music director as part of your team.
Little guilt. Good.
And I was like, if you're interested, I don't want to be on staff because I didn't want her to freak out and have to pay benefits. Just a contract position, but I would love to be your in-house music director. I'll oversee all the music of your company, make sure it's cohesive, make sure it's at a high quality. Sent it thinking I'd never get a response back. She's very busy. And then within 10 minutes, an email back. Of course, I remember you. Of course, I remember the music you wrote. This is perfect timing. We have so many videos right now that need music. And she's like, let me set you up with our creative director. And within 2 weeks, I had an 18-month contract to be their music director. And that's a fully remote job. So that's why I can go to Paris. That's why I'm like gone so much now, because when I worked at the church, I couldn't travel. You got to be there every Sunday. Right. So for 13 years, I really couldn't travel very much.
Right.
And I told myself,
I tell you, that man upstairs, he was really good for all those years you were at the church.
Right. It's like,
put in the time. So
no, totally.
But you put in the time with the man upstairs, and he has blessed you.
Bled all the snot out, don't worry.
But that's my main gig now. I'm music director for a company called Unlikely Collaborators down in Santa Monica. And that's my main gig, but I still do freelance work. Yes, as far as touring, the most memorable tour that we did was in 2012, which, now is kind of a while ago, but we toured 6 weeks with Death Cab for Cutie, which was a national tour with a couple dates in Canada. It was incredible. Basically, the band was like, here's 20 songs from our full history catalog. And he was just, write whatever you want, write strings on all of them, however you want, and never listened to anything, just full trust. And I show up in Denver for the first day of rehearsal. That's the first time he hears everything.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because at that point I had worked with them a little bit. We did a VH1 Storytellers thing. We did a couple records. I think at that point they trust your taste, and you show up and they made a couple. Oh, can we change this a little bit, that, but not much. And actually, we played at Anne Hathaway's wedding because of Ben. Ben played at the wedding and asked us to play with him. Okay. So he played her down the aisle and we played with them. She had either just finished Les Mis or something. Her hair was super short.
I also remember you playing for Meta or Apple. Didn't you do one of those?
Yeah, so my biggest corporate client right now is Meta. We're kind of unofficially their house orchestra. If they ever need orchestra for a video game or for one of the Oculus experiences or something like that, we're their first call for strings, cellos, things like that. So I do a lot of contracting and conducting for Meta. I mean, I live in the Bay Area. If you follow the money to the top, it's always coming from the tech industry in some way.
When you compose and write music, how do you come up with the arrangement? Do you visually see the music? Is it colors? What is the creative process for you?
I always just compare it to like playing around with a ball of Play-Doh until you land on your first interesting shape. I always doubt myself. What if I'm not going to be able to come up with anything? But the thing is, I'm not coming up with something out of nothing. A film score, you're looking at images, you're looking at a story and characters and voices. A podcast, you're hearing someone talk. So you have someone serving over the net. It's your job to hit the ball back. There's information coming at you and you have to decide how you want to complement it so that it basically elevates the story in this beautiful way. And it can be color. I'm very inspired by colors. One of the projects I'm doing now, they sent me a color palette for a certain section, and it looked like fall colors. And to me, fall feels very acoustic guitar-y. There's just cultural markers where certain colors and certain things remind you of certain instruments, and fall reminds me of an acoustic guitar. And so that's the first instrument I'm going to fire up in my computer and just play around with my Play-Doh of acoustic guitar until I find something that I like and lock that in, and then just write. Kind of now you're just figuring out how to accompany that.
So you like build around that.
You build around that, yeah. But you have to lock something in first before you can build around it.
What color are you feeling Liz and I's voice?
Oh, interesting. Okay, I don't know why. Just maybe it's the color of your shirt, but I just said copper. Oh. Yes, copper color. Yes, because you're wearing that brown shirt.
Wait, I had a question though, because I feel like you're so successful and you've been able to build a life around working in music and loving music, whereas a lot of people I don't think would be able to. But do you still have those moments where you're like, this might be it?
Oh, yeah.
Or I shouldn't have that corporate job. Or what do you do when that happens, and how do you shake that off? Because you've been doing this for decades now.
Yeah, I've been doing it for about 20 years. This is the first time in 20 years where I feel, for the first time in my life, I feel safe. Again, the contract I have with the company in LA, it's not a full-time job. It could go away, in 2 years. But it took 20 years for me to finally have confidence in my own musical point of view. I know I'm not the world's greatest composer. I know I'm not the world's most modern, avant-garde, forward-thinking, edgy composer, but I know that the music that I write will sound beautiful. And that actually took a long time for me to think that that's enough. Because in music, a lot of times it's not enough that your music is pretty. It needs to be very politically active. It needs to be forward thinking. It needs to be pushing the envelope of, is this even music or is this something else? And very incredibly inventive. I struggled a long time. Oh, I don't think my music is original enough, innovative enough, or just edgy enough. But at some point I was I think it's enough for me to write the music that sounds good to me. Because at the end, if that's not good enough for you, then you're writing music for other people, other people's opinion and other people's validation. And that's a very dangerous place to anchor your ship, because you're going to be constantly,
right?
Yeah.
I think even Rick Rubin said,
I was just about to,
right? He said, make art for yourself, let the audience come to you.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's where you get the best of what you have to offer as an artist.
100%. And it took a long time. I think the reason why I feel that's enough now is because I have 20 years now. But after 20 years and you have hundreds of clients saying, we love what you wrote.
Right.
You're okay.
Got something over here.
Yeah. Or
as Liz and I discover who we are in this field, it's we're also just doing it for ourselves. We don't really know who's watching it. We have an idea, but it's a creative outlet that we're expressing ourselves, and we're just going to keep going about it.
It's Minna.
What up, Renee? Renee, Victor, looking great. No, but I think a lot of people don't trust their own tastes. And in a musical context, they don't trust their own ears. My ears think a certain sound is beautiful and a certain sound is cool or pretty or is just working for some reason for me.
What's your favorite sound?
Oh, gosh.
Melody.
That's a really good question. I want to answer it thoughtfully. I love the sound of there's certain candles make that kind of flickering sound when they're burning. It's similar to the sound of a fireplace, kind of crackling wood sound.
Yeah.
Hey, look what
I do appreciate a crackling fireplace, as long as I have some early man to put it out after.
I guess it does evoke kind of a wintry feeling, but there's something relaxing.
There's just something about that crackle sound. The candle was on the other night. I found it so beautiful and relaxing. I had to make a sound logo, but Netflix is cuckoo. And so I had to make that for a client the other day. And
did you tell your mom what you did and said, I invoiced them and look at me, Mom? To
my parents' credit, they really have done a 180. From being over our dead body, will you study music in school? To now, they're evangelists in Korea for encouraging parents to let their kids do what they love. Yeah, they've really come the whole other way, and
you broke a whole cultural generation of
Because obviously parents are listening to other parents. They want to make sure they're checking in and doing the right thing. Wait a minute. The Choi's over here have a daughter who's like super successful in the United States and she's running her own business and working in music. It can be possible to do both. That's awesome, Mina.
So to close up on this chapter, that's what's success to you and what's next for Magik?
Oh, good question. So actually, I was just journaling. I'm like such a California girl. And I think I had been going through a period where I was like starting to get confused as to like what's actually my goal here. And I sat down and I journaled. I have two purposes in life. This is like my calling. My first calling is make the most beautiful music I can with the talent and skills that I possess. That's number one. And then number two is create income opportunities for other musicians, which means create gigs. That's success to me. If I can do those two things, make beautiful music and create income ops for more people besides myself, which is what the Magik Magik Orchestra does.
AKA the Mitzvah Orchestra.
I was just about to say, like, this is such a mitzvah, Mina, and I know we get into our mitzvah later, but this is multiplying mitzvahs.
Truly paying it forward. What is next, Magik Magik?
So what's next for Magik Magik? We really turned a corner this year. 2025 is the first year where we're going to be mounting our own concerts from the ground up that we raised money for to do our own thing. Because I said we're a work for hire orchestra. But last year I just kind of was like, we're ready for this next chapter. We'll still do work for hire. We don't have to wait around for someone to come knocking on our door to do a beautiful concert.
So when's the first beautiful concert?
So I'm putting the first one that's been confirmed is September 30th in San Francisco at the Green Room.
So having this remote job, I hear you're a big traveler.
Yes.
Let's discuss.
In the past,
She's been there for a bit.
In the past 2 years.
Being there because you've really pushed yourself. Now let's get to love.
I think for 20 years, my love life didn't even like make like the top 10. But I went into 2025. I was like, I think this year is going to be the year where I put love first, which is very unusual for me and something I've never done. And it's very uncomfortable because I'm so not used to it. I would cancel dates all the time, but I went to Paris in January with this new kind of mission. Yeah. And I was like, I'm going to see what happens if I put dating first. And it was hard because, again, when you're over there, they're 9 hours ahead. So if a client's like, let's have a call, it's always going to be at nighttime, Paris time.
I got to call you back. I'm trying to secure that baguette, okay? We'll talk later.
That baguette's there.
I'd never done this in my life. And so in January, I went to Paris and I just started dating like crazy. Like downloaded Bumble, was just swipe. You match with someone and you meet at this bar or this cafe. You show up, they're always waiting for you outside. And mind you, this was January in Paris. It's freezing. I would run late sometimes because I'm still new to the subway or whatever. I'm a tourist, but they don't care. They wait for you outside in the freezing cold. Of course, they open the door. Of course, they pay. And then, of course, they walk you home. Also, I will say this. If you're a 40-something-year-old woman living in the States, dating is hard. If you can swing it, and I know it's a financial commitment, the men over there will treat you so well. And they're all 10 years younger than you.
So we're talking about that cougar world. You're basically saying, hey, ladies, get yourselves over across the pond and let's get it going.
Well,
I think part two will have start at hotel cost for some drinks, and then we'll see where we end up.
Oh my God, are we taking Hustle and Schmear on the road to Paris?
Yeah. Do you like to be called maestro?
You don't need to call me that.
It was rumored to be that Leonard Bernstein liked to be called maestro outside of the orchestra when he was at CVS.
What?
In the episode, Elaine is dating a conductor who wants her to call him maestro at the restaurant.
That's really weird.
Instead of Bob, he's maestro.
No.
Oh,
do you like to sing in the shower? What are you singing when no one's watching?
Oh gosh, probably Mariah. She's kind of like, because in high school she was my number one. And
all right, so let's belt it. Oh, give me one song that like you like always go to that's your hype Mariah song.
Let's see. Well, now I have My All stuck in my head. Although that's probably not my go-to. In my sleepless solitude tonight,
if it's wrong.
wrong to love you. Okay, Jason.
What is on the sexy time playlist for Minna Choi?
God, the sexy time play. I will say this, I don't listen to music in the bedroom.
Whoa. Mic drop.
Wow, and we definitely heard that mic drop. Okay. I guess you like a little acapella.
You know, here's the thing. My brain is so attuned to music. I can't listen to music if I read because it just locks into the music and that's all I think about. But I will say this. I did meet a very special person in Paris in January. We've been kind of on and off, but right now I feel we're in a pretty good place. But it's the first time I've ever dated someone across America plus an ocean. So the Google Translate has been...
It's really active.
Yes, very active.
Got it.
I know
Got
exactly what you mean. Hola, ¿cómo está?
Wait, have you ever dated someone who does not speak English as their first language?
Define dating.
Dated. That was good. Yeah, I wouldn't say dated, but been on dates with. Also, like Miami, you know?
Right.
I am a global citizen in the bedroom. It's
I'm a
almost
citizen of the world, Carrie.
it's almost like a United Nations summit, I guess. You know?
Oh, God. I don't know.
Welcome.
Oh, God.
Okay, so two more questions. I'll just combine it. Is advice for young entrepreneurs and advice for young musicians.
Okay. Advice for young musicians is trust your own ears. If it sounds good to you, you just have to trust your own ears. That quote was. Advice for young entrepreneurs, like people starting their business, say yes to everything, even if it doesn't pay well in the beginning, because you've got to get the rep, you've got to get project experience and execution experience. You've got to practice the skill of saying yes to someone and then delivering on time and on budget. Because if you get a reputation as someone who delivers on time and on cost, then you will be irresistible. Then people will tell their friends. Every person that touches your project is going to have questions and needs. And you have to basically answer all of those questions and fulfill all those needs without them even knowing.
You're obviously very talented, but you could just be talented as a musician and like not talented running a business, and you would not be where you are today.
Yeah.
Kudos to you, Minna. I mean,
bravo. If you weren't doing this, what would you want to be?
If I wasn't doing this, I think I would be doing event planning because that's the closest to what I do now. It's like every recording session I do, every concert I do is essentially an event. It's a music event, but it's an event. What makes my events successful is because I'm able to anticipate every problem before it happens. I tell people, in order to be great, you have to have a very vivid imagination because you have to imagine everything that could go wrong. And you have to fix it before. The thing I'm most proud of in Magik is not the clients that we've worked with, but it's the fact that the musicians that I hire keep coming back to do more gigs. We have the same violinists and cellists that we had 17 years ago. They're still in the group, and we did this.
I mean, you guys are...
But also a testament how you treat your, work for hires. Every episode we do Nosh of the Day where we ask our guests to pick a recipe that was one of her favorite recipes growing up in childhood. Or what your favorite nosh lately is in Salstein or in Paris.
I'll do this favorite nosh in Paris. Where I would go is in the 11th. It's called Wally Fay. So WALY space FAY. And it's a Senegalese restaurant. And the dish that I would have is their chicken yassa, which is kind of the Senegalese like national dish. It's a chicken dish with a gravy that's made out of vinegar and mustard and onions, and it's cooked down to this beautiful like curry, and they serve it with broken rice. I would have one bite of that, fly back, and be totally happy.
I want to try that. Okay, Minna, next time we've been in Paris together. I don't know if you know. We will be going there next trip. Yes.
Okay. So now, Liz, we're
this or that, singer or drummer?
Oh, drummer.
Oh. Okay.
Are we talking about men, right?
Whatever.
Yeah.
We're always talking about men. I just want to let everyone know right now, we're always talking about men.
Amen to that. Okay. New York or Paris?
Oh, you're not going to like the answer.
Let me hear it.
At this point in my life, I would probably fly over New York City. to go
I've
to
never heard
Paris.
New York be called a flyover.
A flyover city.
Okay, Paris. Look, Paris is special. I get it. Still New York for life. Coffee or tea?
Coffee, of course.
Okay. Croissant or bagel? I guess we know what you're already going to say.
I'm not a huge croissant person.
Oh, okay.
If you had said croissant or baguette, I would have said baguette all the way.
Oh,
I like a little bit more of like a
Bread.
chewy experience and not so much a flaky experience.
So
Okay.
you're coming back to the tribe with the
Yes.
We'll take you with the bagel. Spicy or mild?
Spicy, of course. I carry Tabasco around in my purse. You know this.
She does. She does carry hot sauce in her bag. Okay,
Oh, boy.
last one. Under order or over order?
Have you met me?
Mina is, let's just hear it.
Over
Oh.
order.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can take it home.
She is notorious. Even when we're doing like takeout, like in college, it would be spread out. You wouldn't finish any of it.
I'm Korean. I grew up with pan. Korean people don't grow up with casseroles, one flavor the whole time. You're mixing and matching. And so when you apply that to a Western food environment, you end up ordering like 16 entrees.
I get it now. That actually makes sense. Okay. Okay,
let's do it.
mitzvah of the day. Mina, so this is sort of like where we want to do a good deed or pay it forward. The mitzvah of the day, sharing special music with someone, whether that's a playlist or taking someone to a concert. I wanted to hear what your version of that
A
is.
mitzvah of the day would be if you see a street musician performing, give a couple bucks. A lot of street musicians now have like the whole Venmo, like QR code. So you don't even need cash these days. It takes 2 seconds. Just grab that QR code, give $1, give a couple
I love
bucks.
I love that. Look, we're going to go out right now. I can hop on the F train. You're going to run into
Oh,
performance.
yes.
I love that, Mina. I will be doing that
Oh,
this week. Thank you for that.
lovely.
That's great. Okay.
Well, thank you, Miss Minna Choi, for joining us on
So happy
another
to be here.
episode of Hustle and Schmear. Everybody, if you like this episode, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Keep it spicy like mustard. Keep it sour like that Bubby's pickle. Minna Liz, please read us out.
Yes. Okay. Remember, the hustle is real.
The schmear is extra.
Thank you so much.